My name is Carol Luke. I'm the mother of Thomas McHenry. He was shot and murdered by Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department on November 24th, 2015. He did have meth in his system. He was bipolar and schizophrenic at the same time. He was pulled because his tags did not match the car. The cops never put on the lights or nothing until after my son got out of the car. They were following him. But when they approached my son, they had the guns drawn, threatening my son from the beginning. Kyle Pryor did. And when he did that, he called for backup. Robert Nord came, but in Robert Nord's statement, he said that he was under the impression that my son and Kyle Pryor was in a physical fight prior to getting there. So his judgment was already messed up. There's a couple things I'd like to point out. You know, this is my son. He's got 3 children. His oldest son's 19. He just came to live with me last week. And I've had a 17-year-old son with me also living, spending time together and doing things that my son was cheated out of. The first year fell on Thanksgiving, of the day of his death, it fell on Thanksgiving. And I was able to locate one of his daughters he hasn't seen since she was 5 months old, putting all 3 of his children together. You know, there's several things. You know, the cops need to be held accountable for their actions, because as I was watching the body cam from mine, it went from the beginning to the end. From the time they tased my son, it was 3 seconds, which by law is 4. The autopsy shows both marks hit him. And after they tased him, they opened fire 8 times and shot him. After they did, they went inside, handcuffed him, and moved his body. He was already, at the time, I can see it looking at the video, but the ambulance wasn't called right away, and he was not, the ambulance did not come before him being put in handcuffs, which could have, in this situation, might not have made a difference, but in the future it would. But you tase someone and then wait 4 seconds. You can mace them, you can shoot them in their knee, you can do anything you want to do. My son was in a block wall on the left and a block wall and behind him with a big wrought iron fence on the other side of him. There was one way in and one way out. Officer Kyle Pryor was in there with my son. They could have easily done things different. My son had nowhere to go, you know, and they were calling off commands. All of them were calling off commands. Inconsistency, and with my son being bipolar and schizophrenic, and he was saying, oh my God, I didn't do nothing, and he was backing up. But for them to handle it the way they did, you know, it showed, you know, weakness in the system, because y'all have certain rules, but yet the certain rules are not being followed. And then the cops are not being held accountable for it. Because when I went to the public hearing, I told Lieutenant Hutler, I met him at that time, and I told him, when I went over the papers that my ombudsman gave me, I went over everything with them. Well, this happened, this happened, this happened. And several times, Lieutenant Hutler was saying, no, that didn't happen. And I would go to the page and show him where that happened, you know. And then afterwards, I was told the cops did have a recommend, but I wasn't told what it was for. And if you slow down the video, you can see my son did not have a gun in his hands. He was not pointing at nobody. So when the police cam badges are shown, it needs to be slowed down to an ultimate turtle move, because what y'all are saying is happening, the reality of it is not real. It has been hard for me and my children, because I had to go over the paperwork over and over. I had to go over body cam. I had to catch him every lie that was told, because this is my son. I shouldn't have to prove my son's innocence against false lies. It has taken a lot out of me, mentally and emotionally and physically, and it will every day of my life. As I was doing this to let the world know that everything y'all said about my son wasn't true. You know, y'all said things that was not true when you was on the TV telling who my son was. You was looking at all the negative, and half of that wasn't true, instead of looking at some of the positive. You know, my 3 grandkids, he missed out on that. You know, he's missed out on a lot. And since then, 2 of my grandchildren who's been in mental health counseling, they have severe traumatized. and one of them has post-traumatic stress disorders, and they're dealing with this, and they don't know how to deal with it because there wasn't a closure. And the things that was brought to me, even when I tried to bring forth a hearing about it, was I need to prove my relationship with my son. I need to prove this. I needed to prove that. Why do we have to prove everything to y'all during a civil lawsuit? You know, this is my child. Why should I have to tell you what he means to me? You know, and give you pictures of things me and my son did. And when was the last time I spoke to him? All those things that they wanted me to list was hard. The bill SB 242 needs to be repealed because there's so much in it that is allowing the cops to get away with things they should not get away with and not be held accountable for their actions. The filing, for example, we're grieving and we only got so long to file, and everything ain't brought to us at one time. My son got shot November 24th. The public hearing was in September of the following year. It says on there we can't see the pictures of the police officers. Every day, I don't even leave my house because what I do, leave my house, like I went to go get my grandson yesterday, my other grandson, and there was 2 police officers passed by, and one had on their lights, and I just froze up because when I see them, I don't know if that's the one that shot my son. You know, I know their names, but just knowing who they are for me, I wouldn't be looking at every police officer living in that anxiety every day and the panic of wondering. You know, and that would bring some closure to me, and I'm pretty sure to some other people, you know, and it's just, they're getting away with things they should not be getting away with. They should be held accountable the same way we are held accountable. There should not be special reasons for them to get away with special things just because they're in the police union. That does not give them the right to kill, tase, they can maze, they can shoot in the knee, they can do anything they want to do, but not out just to murder our children. You know, a lot of that needs to be amended because they're so held high to where they're not accountable for nothing. If they feel their life is in danger, they have the right to shoot and kill. What is saying their life is in danger? Slow down the video and have them show you. Not just take the word, hey, I'm in danger, I'm gonna shoot somebody. No, that don't work for me, it shouldn't work for them. You know, they need to be held accountable for it. And when it is played in slow motion, they're saying he's got a gun, he pointed it. Show them where he pointed it. And if not, then ask them, how did they get from there to there? You know, because they're not being held accountable. They're saying one thing, but the video is showing something else. You know, and not all information is being turned over to us. You know, there was a third-party camera at the Franch Oak Apartments, and the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department did go get it, and they put it in a safe, but never was shown to me or nobody else. So the full exposure of everything, you know, I guess I'm lucky compared to some parents because I got the Dothan Ombudsman, I got the autopsies, I got the police statement, I got Jimmy Banks' statement, the security guard, and I got the badge cameras, and some of them, at first it was just from the middle to the shooting. I didn't get the whole aspect of the police being in the car, stopping my son, what was going on, but in the last one it did, I did. And just when you can't stop just by shooting someone and stop the camera. You can't do that, you know, and it brought so much clarity to me when I did see the rest of it. Yes, it hurt more because I knew while they were doing all this to my son, who was already dead, you know, but they need to be held accountable for picking the bodies up. They need to be held accountable for not following the maze, not following the tasing. They need to be held accountable for things that are set in place that set in place rules and regulations they have, which they are not following. Because I know me as a civilian, if I go out and I do something, I need to be held accountable for my actions. And the same way they need to be held accountable for theirs. The collecting of data needs to be enforced at all times. From the time they get out of their car to approach a suspect until the very end of it. You know, I mean, it should automatically come on when they open up their door. Because that way we're hearing what they're saying, we're seeing what they're doing, and they can't lie about it. They can't say, oh, well, this, and this when it wasn't. You know, and they need to be held accountable from the very beginning of it to the very end. And in order to do that, it has to be recorded and it has to be put on data, and we need to be aware of it. You know, as a mother and as brother and a sister and aunt and uncle and everybody else, you know, they need to be held accountable for collecting that to where there's transparency in all of it, and they're not doing cover-ups.